Under the ghost blue moon of Dry Creek, the midnight auction felt less like a marketplace and more like a gathering of desperate souls trading whatever pieces of their humanity they had left. The sheriff's men stood watch in the shadows, pretending not to see the cruelty unfolding on the wooden stage, because in a town ruled by drought, hunger, and lawlessness, two things still sold fast: horses and silence. Cole Maddox, a worn-out cowboy with dust in his beard and loneliness stitched into his bones, rode into town with nothing but $1 in his pocket and a promise to himself that he'd never get tangled in anyone's troubles again. That promise shattered the moment he saw her, a slim figure dragged across the platform, wrists bound, a hood made from a grain sack pulled over her head so tight she could barely breathe. The auctioneer announced her as the silent girl, saying she hadn't spoken a single word since sunrise, not even when they took her family's wagon. Men around Cole laughed, betting she was mute or broken or both. Bids started high, then fell low until the crowd's interest died. When the auctioneer yelled, $1 and she's yours, no hand rose. No one wanted damaged property. No one except a man who couldn't figure out why his heart suddenly kicked like a wild Mustang. Inside his chest, Cole raised his hand slowly, almost against his own will, and the hammer struck down. Sold to the cowboy and the hat made of better years. The crowd chuckled. Cole didn't. He stepped onto the stage, unbound her wrists, and felt her flinch like she expected a strike instead of kindness. He didn't speak. Neither did she. Instead, he guided her to his horse, letting her climb up before him, her small frame trembling with every breath. Dry Creek was silent as they rode into the desert, the only sound the wind scraping across the sand. Cole didn't know who she was, why she wouldn't speak, or why he felt like he'd just bought more than trouble. But he knew one thing. He wasn't taking her to the mining camp like the sheriff expected. He was heading west, toward his lonely cabin tucked between the canyons, far from the eyes of those who treated people like cattle. When they reached a narrow pass, she suddenly tapped his arm twice, a sharp warning. Cole pulled the horse to a stop just moments before an ambush of riders emerged from behind the rocks. 6 men with rifles, all wearing the same brass badge engraved with a serpent. The leader pointed at the girl and said, "Hand her over, cowboy. She belongs to us." Cole felt her grip tighten on his coat, her entire body shaking. He didn't know her name, her past, or why these men wanted her. But he knew fear when he felt it pressed against his back. And something inside him hardened. "She ain't property," Cole growled. The riders cocked their rifles. The leader smirked, then let her speak for herself. But she didn't. Cole felt the desert tilt beneath him when she spoke his name, like the night itself staggered at her voice. The riders froze too, their rifles lowering an inch as confusion flickered across their faces. The girl, now unhooded and breathing fast, kept her eyes locked on Cole, as if the men with guns didn't exist. "You don't remember me," she whispered. "But you were there the night the Canyon Creek massacre began, and they've been hunting you since." Cole's pulse hammered. Memories he'd buried deep, clawing violently toward the surface. Flashes of fire, screams, the serpent badge, a girl hiding beneath a wagon. Before he could speak, gunfire exploded. Cole grabbed her waist, yanked her down from the saddle, and rolled behind a boulder as bullets sparked against the stone. The horse bolted into the darkness. The girl clutched his arm. "They won't stop," she said. "They can't let you live." Cole shoved his revolver into her hands. "Can you shoot?" She shook her head. "I never learned." He cursed under his breath, then leaned out and fired 3 shots, dropping one rider and scattering the others. The leader roared in anger and signaled his men to flank. Cole pulled the girl close. "We run on my count." "Where?" she asked. Cole didn't know. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. But west meant canyons, shadows, and narrow passages only he knew how to navigate. West was survival. 3, 2. He grabbed her hand. 1. They sprinted through the rocks as the riders gave chase, bullets biting into the ground behind them. The girl stumbled, unused to the rugged terrain, but Cole kept her upright. When they reached a cleft in the canyon wall, Cole pushed her through first, squeezing into the narrow slit after her. The opening was barely wide enough for a single person, which made it perfect. Horses couldn't follow, and rifles had no clear angle. They moved deeper until the shooting faded. Cole lit a match, revealing a cramped cavern. Only then did they catch their breath. She sank onto a stone, trembling. Cole knelt before her. "Start talking. Who are you?" She studied him for a long moment. "My name is Mara. My family's wagon was attacked by the Serpent Riders 2 nights ago. They were looking for someone. Someone they said escaped them years ago. Someone who knew their secret. They kept describing a cowboy with a scar. Under his left eye," Cole touched his cheek unconsciously. The old wound burned as if freshly cut. "Why were they dragging you to Dry Creek?" Cole asked. Mara swallowed hard. "Because I heard their leaders say who they were really hunting. You, and because I heard what they plan to do when they find you." Cole's muscles tightened. "Which is?" Mara leaned closer, her voice barely a breath. "They want to bring you back alive. They say you're the only one who can unlock something they lost, and once you do, they'll kill you." A deep rumble echoed through the canyon, distant, but closing in. Boots, many of them. Mara tensed. "They found us." Cole extinguished the match, plunging the cavern into blackness. "Mara," he whispered, "you need to tell me everything, fast." But before she could answer, a voice thundered from outside the narrow opening, deep and cold as the desert night. "Cole Maddox, step out. You know what we want, and the girl dies if you don't." Mara gripped his arm in terror. Cole reached for his last bullet and whispered, "They're not taking either of us." The cavern seemed to shrink around them as the Serpent Riders' torches flooded, the narrow entrance with flickering light, their shadows stretching. Long and sharp across the canyon, walls like fanged creatures closing in. Mara pressed her back to the cold stone, her breath shallow, her eyes never leaving Cole's face, waiting for his plan, any plan. Cole steadied his hand on the revolver, feeling the weight of that single last bullet like judgment in his palm. "Listen to me," he whispered, leaning close enough for her to feel the gravel in his voice. "You're going to crawl through that gap behind you. It leads to an old mine tunnel. Follow it until you see daylight. Don't stop." Mara shook her head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you. You have to." His tone left no room for argument. "They want me alive. You're the loose end they'll cut first." Her eyes softened with something he didn't expect: trust, pain, maybe something more. Before she could respond, the voice outside thundered again. "Last warning. Step out, Maddox." Cole stood slowly, holstered the revolver, and approached the crevice entrance with empty hands raised high. Mara gasped, but he gave her a look that said, "Run, not yet." But soon. Cole stepped just where the riders could see him, the canyon light washing over his scar and the defiance in his eyes. The leader dismounted, a massive, scarred man with the serpent badge glowing on his chest. Cole recognized him instantly. Bishop Kane, the butcher of Canyon Creek, the man responsible for everything he'd lost. "You should have stayed gone," Kane growled. "We need what's in your memory, Maddox. You saw the map the night we raided the outpost. You're the only one who did. That map leads to something older than this town, older than any law, and you're going to take us to it." Cole spat in the dust. "I'd rather rot." Kane raised his gun. "Mara, run!" he shouted. Chaos erupted. Riders cursed, stumbling in the blackness. Cole tackled one, yanking his rifle free. Mara disappeared into the tunnel with a final terrified glance. Cole swung the rifle like a club, striking another rider's jaw, then dove behind a boulder as gunfire lit brief flashes of hell across the canyon floor. Kane's voice cut through the chaos. "Find the girl. Maddox stays alive." Cole fired wildly, grabbing ammunition off a fallen rider, rolling behind cover and drawing the fight deeper into the canyon. Minutes blurred into gunshots and grit and blood. For every rider that charged him, Cole answered with iron and fury. But numbers wore him down. A kick landed in his ribs. A rifle butt cracked against his shoulder. 2 riders pinned him to the ground. Kane approached, breathing hard but grinning. "You fought well," he said, pressing the muzzle of his gun to Cole's forehead. "But your time's—" A gunshot exploded. Kane jerked backward, stunned, clutching his thigh. Mara stood atop the canyon rim, hands shaking, holding the stolen revolver like a lifeline. "Get away from him!" she screamed. Kane roared in rage. The distraction was enough. Cole twisted free, grabbed a fallen rifle, and fired. 1 rider fell. Another fled. The remaining men, rattled by Mara's shot and Cole's relentless fight, mounted their horses and retreated into the night, dragging Kane with them. Silence settled slowly over the canyon. Mara scrambled down the rocks, breathless, terrified, and threw herself beside Cole. He winced, but managed a crooked smile. "Thought I told you to run." Tears shone in her eyes. "I did, but I wasn't leaving you." Cole rested his hand over hers. "Then I guess we ride together now." She nodded, helping him to his feet. And as dawn crept over the desert, painting the world gold, the cowboy and the girl walked toward it, two hunted souls bound by fate, danger, and a story the West would one day whisper as legend. Then the girl dies first. Mara's muffled gasp echoed behind. Cole. She'd moved too close, and Kane had heard her. Kane smiled. "Bring her out." Two riders shoved toward the crevice, rifles aimed. Cole reacted before thought could catch up. He lunged sideways, drew his revolver, and fired his last bullet straight into the torch above them, shattering it and plunging the canyon mouth into sudden, suffocating darkness.